of Hollywood, Bill Gates, and dentists who can buy a small island with the cost of a single root canal. And then there's Mexico, the land of tacos, drug cartels, and let's be honest, many of the people who built those expensive American homes. But here's the thing. Mexico is full of resources, culture, and a history that would make any textbook blush. So why does it constantly remain in the shadow of its northern neighbor? Why is Mexico the Robin to America's increasingly unhinged Batman? Well, amigos, buckle up, because today we're diving headfirst into the murky, often tequila-soaked story of how America became the boss. And Mexico, well, let's just say they got the short end of the stick. You see, the seeds of this whole story were sown centuries ago. The United States, bless their hearts, was founded on the British model, capitalism, industry, and a fair share of the desire to build and earn. Mexico, on the other hand, got the Spanish model, plunder, extract, and concentrate all the wealth in the hands of a select few, preferably wearing a very large hat. I'm not saying one system is inherently better than the other, but one definitely leads to more iPhones and the other significantly fewer. Imagine two kids, let's call them Uncle Sam and say Miguel. Uncle Sam gets a Lego set for his birthday and Miguel gets a piñata. Uncle Sam, being a product of his environment, starts building houses, spaceships, maybe even a tiny Lego White House. Meanwhile, Miguel is whacking away at the piñata, hoping candy falls out. For centuries, this pattern continued. 1846. The United States, fresh off its Manifest Destiny high, looked at Mexico and thought, you know what, I haven't grabbed some land in a while. And they did what any self-respecting 19th century world power would do. They manufactured a reason for war. I'm not saying the Mexican-American War was completely unprovoked. It's just that the provocation involved the US government kind of whispering, come on, tell me Texas isn't yours. Do it. And then feigning shock when Mexico had the audacity to respond. Long story short, the US won, and by won I mean they took, and I cannot stress this enough, half of Mexico's territory. We're talking California, Nevada, Utah, parts of Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Wyoming. It's like showing up to a potluck, eating half the guacamole, and then declaring the bowl is now yours. This, my friends, is what historians delicately call a turning point. Fun fact. Did you know that if you look up the word corruption in the dictionary, there's a picture of a Mexican politician next to it? Okay, that's not entirely true, but it's not entirely untrue either. While the United States was building its economy on the backs of, shall we say, a lot of unpaid labor, Mexico was wrestling with a different monster, rampant, systemic corruption. We're talking FIFA-level corruption that would make any FIFA official blush. Politicians and drug cartels in cahoots, police and criminals, two sides of the same coin. It's like playing Monopoly where everyone is cheating, except instead of fake money, they're using the country's future. And the thing is, this corruption isn't just some annoying side effect, it's baked into the system. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, or rather, the elephant south of the border. The United States loves to brag about its free market principles, its entrepreneurial spirit, its ability to pull oneself up by one's bootstraps. But here's the thing about bootstraps, someone has to make them. And increasingly, that someone is Mexico. Over the past few decades, the US has become increasingly reliant on Mexico for cheap labor. From agriculture to manufacturing, Mexicans are the backbone of many American industries. They pick the fruit, sew the clothes, and assemble the iPhones, all for a fraction of what an American worker would demand. This system benefits American consumers and corporations, but it leaves Mexican workers trapped in a cycle of low wages and limited opportunities. Imagine a giant game of Jenga, where the American economy is the tower, and Mexico is the bottom row of blocks. Sure, the US can keep adding blocks on top, reaching for the sky, but the whole thing gets awfully unstable when the foundation is shaky. To be precise, the seemingly endless flow of drugs from Mexico into the United States. I'm not excusing the actions of the cartels. These are brutal, ruthless organizations that profit from suffering and death. But let's not pretend this is a one-way street. It's like a toxic relationship where one partner is addicted to something harmful and the other is more than happy to provide it, all the while lamenting the destructive nature of the addiction. The US spends billions of dollars on the war on drugs, but the demand remains and the cartels continue to rake in billions. It's a vicious cycle fueled by hypocrisy, corruption, and a whole lot of cash. And finally, we arrive at the issue that has become synonymous with US-Mexico relations: immigration. Or as it's commonly phrased in certain circles, those darn Mexicans are stealing our jobs and selling drugs. Let's be honest, immigration is a complex issue with no easy answers. But one thing is for sure, building a wall, besides being incredibly expensive and environmentally destructive, is about as effective as putting a band-aid on a gunshot wound. People migrate for various reasons: economic opportunity, fleeing violence, the lure of a better life. And you know what? As long as there's a significant disparity in living standards between the US and Mexico, people will keep coming. It's like trying to stop water from flowing uphill. You can build all the dams you want, but nature will always find a way. The irony is, the US needs Mexican immigrants. Mexico could have been another America, but somewhere along the way, the system got tripped up by a giant boot in a star-spangled pattern. While the US invents the future, Mexico remains a factory of cheap labor, a cautionary tale whispered in the corridors of globalization. The question is, will that ever change? Can Mexico break free from the shackles of its past, or will it forever remain America's backyard? Like this video if you think the US stole the Mexican dream, or if you just love tacos.